Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So, I am getting ready to do a little bit outdoor work here. Just got done changing out of my pretty clothes into some work clothes. But I went and I picked up some more cattle panels because I want to make some extra shelter for our animals. Just some added shade. I mean, of course we have the trees and everything, but you know, when the weather is bad, the animals like to go inside their shelters down there. But a lot of that space is taken up by a hay rack. And so we want to build another shelter for the hay. That way they have plenty of space inside their real shelter for when the weather's bad. I said, there's something living under that rock. Maybe a tarantula.
Worm.
What?
There's a worm underneath one of the food bowls.
Oh.
Take this one to the inside.
Yep. This end will go that way, so that these are against the post, or like this.
Yeah, so that end is going to go on the ground against those.
Yeah. Stop and stare.
What are you making, Amos?
Let me go ahead and clip that one on.
Milk dud.
Huh?
Milk dud. Milk dud.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were getting some work done, but the weather had other plans. Alright friends, so our outdoor projects got waylaid by a big old storm. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to complain though, because we really needed the rain. You know, there's been lots of storms coming through Arkansas and, you know, through the whole region the last couple of weeks. Some of them pretty bad. But we've gotten almost nothing. So even though it was a bit of a doozy, I appreciate the rain. So it's still sprinkling. You can probably hear under the umbrella here. But I thought, you know what, let's just go out and walk through the garden. It's been about 2 weeks since I did the last garden tour, and as long as we don't get rained out, which is a distinct possibility, let's walk through the garden after the storm. So you know, it's been a really rough garden season so far, between the soil issues and all of that. So there's a lot of ups and downs out here in the garden. Some of the plants are struggling because, you know, they got in really late, and then when they did go in, it was super, super hot. So they were just kind of on the struggle bus to begin with. So we're just kind of doing what we can and hoping for the best. So this bed of beans down here, the last garden tour, there weren't any sprouts at all, and they are getting to the point where they're beginning to reach the trellis. You can see a lot of them are laying down after the storm that we just had, and I mean, we just had rain dumped on us. So they're kind of all over the place, but they will be climbing up this trellis in no time. We'll give that one a little bit of a head start. So these beans over here are the NT half runners. These are a green bean that I've planted in the past, had really good success with this variety, tons and tons of beans. And so of course I wanted to grow these again. So this is the bed of peppers, and actually I'm having a moment here. I just remembered that I took the baby pepper plants out this morning, and they've been in a rainstorm. So I'm gonna have to deal with the pepper plants when I get back up there, my little baby plants. But as I was saying, this is the pepper bed. You know, the pepper plants are doing okay. They're not looking great, and I mean, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I did go ahead and fertilize this week with some organic fertilizer, hoping to give them a little bit of a boost. I'm seeing some little baby peppers begin to grow, so, you know, fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. This bed over here is the cucumbers. This was basically all of the leftover cucumbers that wouldn't fit in the other spots that we had, and so they just kind of all got heavily planted over here. Now, my son is actually growing all of these cucumbers this year, and so he sort of feels responsible for this bed. And when he heard me say that mushroom compost was good for garden beds, he just dumped the entire box of his mushroom leftovers in here. It is what it is. But I do have a giant Mongolian sunflower right there coming up. It's about 18 inches tall. And my little baby rosemary bush right there that I planted. Over here we've got some echinacea blooming. My little baby butterfly bush has bloomed. This bed over here we've got tomatoes, and I've got a couple different varieties. Those over there are looking pretty good. They're all looking really healthy, looking good. These ones down here though, some of them aren't looking so hot. I'm going to come out here and do some pruning, prune off the bad leaves and all of that stuff, and hopefully they start looking better. The asparagus bed over here is full of all sorts of goodies. I've got, you know, the edging full of all different things, cosmos and basil and sage and all different things. And for the most part, everything is looking great. My calendula down here actually looks like it's about to flower. We've got buds, and I've got a couple little sunflower seedlings popping up right there. But we've got gobs of asparagus ferns, and so, you know, that's a good sign to see when you are first starting a garden bed. Over here we've got the eggplant and roselle that I planted, and this bed right here we've got beautiful zucchini plants. Now, this is the one bed that I had left that bad soil in. And, you know, everything's looking really good. I did go ahead and plant a little bit of corn in here. Now, the seed was really old, so I wasn't really sure I would get much of anything. But there's a few things coming up. I'll probably come back and plant a little bit more. I planted some peaches and cream corn, and I planted some Indian corn, colorful corn back there. And we've got lots of zucchini blossoms coming up. I actually saw my first zucchinis on the plants this week, but I plucked them off. Because something that I learned from a farmer several years ago, I was at a farmer's market, and she was selling containers of itty bitty baby squash, and I'm like, they're so tiny. And she's like, yeah, they are the first squash off of every plant. And she told me that the reason she did that is because by doing that, it tells the plant that it's going to need to make a lot more fruit because something ate the first one. Because, you know, a plant's whole mission in life is to produce seeds and make more plants. And so if that very first fruit goes away, well, they're going to need to make more. Let's see. So there's some more corn right there, and then down through here I've got all sorts of sunflowers that are beginning to pop up. All different varieties. Got some more corn back in there. And then swinging over here to this little bed, this is my straight neck yellow squash. And just like the zucchini, I plucked all of the first fruits off of the plants. And already we can see there are more growing. There's one there. There's one down there. Coming around on this side. We've got squash down there. So there are all sorts of little baby squashes growing. So one of the things that I did do this week is I went ahead and I put in these green stakes, and I began tying up the stems of my squash plants because, you know, just reading up on squash vine borers, a lot of people recommend keeping your squash plants, the stems, off of the ground. And so by making them grow vertically, it's supposed to reduce the chances, or at least, you know, slow them down. And so that is what I have started doing. And I already put the first strings down there, but as you can see, that main stem is getting a lot taller. I'm going to have to come out and put some more twine on there. All right, this bed down here is some more tomatoes. Now, these tomatoes were looking really pitiful. And so I went ahead, gave them all some plant food, some organic fertilizer, and the new growth that is coming on these plants is darker green, looking healthier. So this week I'm going to come out here again. I'm going to prune off all of the sickly looking leaves and try and give these plants a boost. Some of them, I don't know if they'll do anything. Like this one right here looks awful, so I don't know. We'll give it a chance though. Down there you can see all sorts of little seedlings. That is my Kajari melons, which I am beyond thrilled about. I love Kajari melons. And speaking of melons, I mentioned in my last garden tour that I was on the hunt for Israeli melon seeds, and I was so upset that I could not find my Israeli melon seeds. I had had a subscriber send them to me, and I loved that fruit. But I couldn't remember who it was who had sent them, because it was several years ago. Well, I had someone reach out to me, and she sent me a message, and she said, I think I'm the one who sent you those. It sounds very familiar to me. And when I saw her name, I'm like, you were the one who sent them to me. And so she said she was going to send me some more. Well, in the meantime, someone who lives right here in Arkansas, in Mayflower, as a matter of fact, she said, I've got Israeli melon seeds, and she sent me some. And I am so excited about that. So, oh, I love Israeli melons. But I've planted out just about every bed. So I may need to add another little bed just to grow some Israeli melons. I've got another piece of trellis laying right there on the ground that I haven't used. So maybe I can throw together a quick little bed and get some going. Coming down around this side. Okay, now I did something. And I know any experienced gardener is just going to shake their head at me. And I don't know if I've shared this yet, but I'm going to share it now. Over here, on the very edge of the garden, if you look right here and right here, that is peppermint. And now the reason I say that an experienced gardener is going to shake their head at me is because it's peppermint, it spreads, it goes crazy. And most people know, never plant your peppermint in your garden bed. You have to put it in a container because it's going to go nuts, it's going to take over everything. Well, in Alabama, in our front area, there was a flower bed along the front of the house. And in that flower bed, I had put 2 little chocolate mint plants and some lemon balm. And those few plants went nuts. They filled that whole bed. I would have flowers coming up through there, but there would be mints galore all over the place. And over time, the seeds did get blown around, or birds carried them, or they got weed-eated across the sidewalk. And they did end up growing in my garden area. But that garden area was all raised beds. And, you know, I kind of liked walking through the garden. And as I walked through and my feet crushed plants underneath, the grasses, the clovers, the chocolate mint, it smelled amazing. When I mowed out there, it smelled wonderful. And so I'm not too worried about the peppermint being over there and spreading, because, I don't know, it's over out of the way. And, you know, I've mulched with wood chips, and if it spreads where I walk, I'm not too worried about it. Now, of course, that may be something I come to regret, and I may be eating those words down the road, but time will tell. All right, so over here in this bed, again, we've got some more baby tomato plants. Those are Romas. These are all Romas, as I recall. And down here, you can see I've got some squash plants. These are my Zucchino rampicante. I always have to stop and remember what these things are called. But I've got some there, I've got some there, and I've got some right here. And this last one right there is doing great. It's got like its first true leaf and everything. I did plant some nasturtium seeds over in here. The seeds were really old. I don't know if they will, I don't know if they'll germinate at all. But they were these beautiful, they were called Alaskan red nasturtium. The leaves of the plant were actually variegated, green and white. But again, the seeds were really, really old. So I'm not sure that they'll germinate, but I put a few over here. Over here in this corner, I planted a whole bunch of okra. And you can see I've got some seedlings coming up. These were Alabama spineless okra, is what I planted. The watermelon that I planted down here, I'm just kind of not expecting much out of this. Alright, that brings me to this bed of green beans. Interestingly enough, the ones right here in the very middle of the row are looking really good, minus the bug bites. But the rest of them are just looking really pitiful. But I did, like I said, fertilize this week. So we're going to give these all some time before I get before I give up on them. I fertilized this week, plus we just got some lovely rain, and that might just be the boost that these things need. This variety was the Kentucky Wonder pole beans. So the bee balm has fully flowered, and this has been absolutely covered in butterflies and bees and everything this week. I've got a little comfrey plant that I stuck in there. My cosmos, my hyssop. Alright, so this is another one that's kind of a mixed bag. We've got tomatoes on this side that are looking pretty good. These are mortgage lifter tomatoes. Not too bad. So we've got some looking okay, we got some looking pitiful. But my basil's doing good, and I actually just harvested a whole bunch yesterday. Now, as you can see, the other thing that I did add since my last garden tour was the shade cloth. And I added it all to one side because that side over there is the west, so it's the afternoon sun. And the shade cloth that I have here is a 40% shade cloth, meaning it blocks out 40% of the light. So it's not reducing it too much, but it's cutting down some of that heat, because I noticed that a lot of these plants were really struggling because, you know, like I shared, this garden ended up going in very late because of the soil issues that I had. And so instead of going out while the temperatures were moderate and building up and getting strong and then being faced with extreme heat, they ended up kind of just being thrown right in there with full sun, not really much rain, and 95 plus degrees all of a sudden for days on end. And so I'm hoping that the shade cloth and then the fertilizer, giving them a good feeding, will boost everything in here. But you know, the first year you plant a garden is often a challenging year, because you don't know what your soil is going to be like. You don't know how things are going to do where you planted, and every garden is an adventure. Every garden, every year. But you know, every year is a bit of a challenge. And I've talked in the past that when you garden, you know, not just the first year, but every year, there's going to be something that's a challenge, something you've got to figure out, something that you are faced with that you haven't had to handle before. And every year you're going to have to do a little bit of homework and do some problem solving, but it's worth it. Even if you don't grow a thing, being outside, enjoying the fresh air, getting your hands in the dirt and talking to the Creator, that's a good way to pass the time. But before I wrap this up, because that sky over there is starting to get really dark and I think we got some more rain coming, I want to come over here and show you something real quick. This is actually the first thing that I planted last year when we bought our property. It was elderberries. And I showed you those little baby elderberry plants that I just planted over there a couple weeks ago. And when I put them in the ground, they were smaller than those over there. They were just little bitty babies. But now, do you see this jungle behind me? This umbrella that I have right here is a really big, like, golf type umbrella. One of those big ones, right? I have to reach all the way up and I can just touch the top of this elderberry plant. These things are humongous and they are covered. They are covered with buds. You can see that there. So I can, safe to say, the elderberries are doing great. The tomatoes might be on the struggle bus, but the elderberries doing great. But that is it for today. Thanks for joining me here on this rainy day. My name is Constance from Cosmopolitan Cornbread, and I'll talk to y'all next time.